Welcome back to the Tracie Trendy Show, my lovelies. Another day, another dollar. And another episode of Love After Lockup. Yes, my love. Let's get down to the low down dirt. And let's start off with Melissa and Louie. Finally, 20 years Melissa has waited for her man. She's waited 20 years for him. She wants it. She wants it. She wants it. So, she's not going to be delayed by Donna any longer. She waited 20 hours, and that is it. And they bust out of Donna's house to the hotel. Now, they decide a baby isn't for them, but Melissa suggests that he feels all of her since it's been 10 years since he's felt a woman. But Louie's a little nervous since it's been a decade when he hooked up with girls. Just girls? Now, what were you hooking up with in prison, I wonder? But anyway, according to Louis, he repopped the cherry because Mel's Aunt Flo came to visit. And Melissa says that she wanted to lose her virginity to Louis in high school, so it was kind of perfect. So this is kind of like the next best thing. So, interesting. And then, okay, so that was all good, and they're just basking in the glow of their romance hood. Then Donna rings them up, and she's talking about an unmarked car at the house. But loves, they didn't take the bait, but they headed straight off to the PO office. Now, Melissa's a little nervous that the PO would not allow Louis to leave the state because she fears she unleashed the monster, the sex monster, and he might be going to see other women while she's in Jersey because she has a full-time job and she has a kid to support and she can't be going back and forth to Georgia. So, but it seems like she has more pressing problems because before you know it, knock, knock, Donna's knocking on the car door with a wooden spoon. And so Donna's letting her know she ain't messing around. And we learned that Donna, she moved down to Georgia because Louis went to school in Florida. And she told Melissa, if she has to, she might have to move back to Jersey if he goes back. So, loves, we got to stay tuned to see what happens. Moving on to Sheree and Anthony. Sheree finally gets to meet her man. Anthony is finally released, my loves. And they have a very sloppy meet and greet. Very sloppy. So he gets out and he says what he wants, what they all want. A little because he hasn't had it in 7 years. And he doesn't want his mother's sloppy chicken meal either. So he wants the sex and he wants a good meal. He wants real food also, okay? Not his mom's sloppy chicken dinner. Now, he talks about his trials and tribulation and how he's not going back to prison. As a fact, he tosses out his prison wear just like Cameron did. Like it's just litter the ground, okay? We might get a fine for littering. How about that? Anyway, they drive off. And he says he wants to stay busy and he wants to study the culinary arts. And eventually he wants his own food truck. Okay, let's hope that he gets that. And let's hope he's staying the straight and narrow. But stop littering, Anthony. Moving on to Chelsea and Mikey. Now, I kind of like this. I don't want to regret that I like this couple, but let's just see. Everything looks so, this is his first day release. Mikey is free. And Chelsea says that if he gets locked up again, she's not talking to him again. Now, I know that's right. I mean, I don't know. Let's just see. And he says he's going to stay out of jail because he has Chelsea to give him that motivation. And he promised to get a job and provide. That's what we like to hear, right? Get a job and provide. And he wants her to feel comfortable around him. And that means using her voice, which she feels uncomfortable using it because it sounds different. So they go straight over to Mikey's sister's house, the place that he got arrested. Now he's coming out of prison, my loves, 3 weeks after his mother's death. And she was right by his side. And it's tough for him because he said all this guilt because he wasn't there for her or the family when times were tough because he's locked up in the pen. So anyway, they get to the house and Chelsea's warmly received, but she's not feeling sleeping in mama's bed with Mikey. I don't blame her. That is so creepy. So they head over to the motel, but she's also feeling anxious about telling him that she doesn't want to sleep with him. I'm thinking she need to have that conversation before my loves. Now moving on, to Andy and Britt. Andy is met with a cold shoulder from Britt, and she said it was because she had a fight with Gracie. She was all smiles when he gave her the $500 and the phone and the clothes, but now she's saying everything is new and overwhelming. And then Andy had to talk too much. He gave his opinion, and that was to stick to their plans and go back home. And she didn't like that. She feels as if Andy needs to be her rock and get no nookie either. That's what it seems like. She's not leaving her kid for a man. And I don't blame her. However, this whole thing seems a little helter skelter. Now, if we know the timeline, this has been 24 hours, one day after her release. So everything is sped up. So what she should have did was handle her kid's situation, and then she'd go over to Andy. So, but anyway, it's been 24 hours, and Andy's getting aggravated and frustrated. And Britt says she is staying and waiting on Gracie, and she will let Andy know where he plays a part in her life. So she takes off with Gracie without saying a word. And Andy and his son Barry, they don't know what to do. But wait. So Andy's son Barry, he calls his sister with the news, and she tells him that Andy got played. It seems that way, but there's two ways to see this. Andy is technically married at the time of the filming of this show. Apparently, they grew apart. But, without that being known, it's a sad situation. He pouring all this money in this woman, and he is getting the cold treatment. And mind you, he just gave her $500 on the phone less than 24 hours ago. Now, moving on to the biggest train wreck ever in the recent times is Janomi and Red, a.k.a. Navajo Monique. Janomi. I'm going to call her Joy. Now, she goes to a lawyer's office to inquire about Red getting custody of her cheat baby, her little cheat baby. Her cheat baby name is Sweat. And I'm like, isn't it a little premature? And the man, you ain't never physically met this man. And the attorney even says, wait a minute. You have to be married. And Red has to build a bond with Sway for at least a couple years before we even talk about Red adopting your child. Then he mentions about the bio dad. What up with the bio dad? And Janomi says that she doesn't know who is the daddy. It could be one of three men that she let shoot up the club. Oh, my goodness. Now, I'm like, women can't do everything men do. You heard that saying. But if you're going to go out there and play smart and have her wrap it up. And she's all saying, I'm thankful for my child. I'm like, lady, you just lucky. You're very significantly overweight and you got pregnant, but you might have got something else besides a baby that you couldn't get rid of. So, and then who knows if she could ever get pregnant again. If you sleep with all these men, they might give you incurable STD. So, Joy's sister says she didn't know she was going to bring her up to this lawyer office and embarrass her like this. She had that look on her face. I know I ain't got a hole for a sister. And she's like, "Ho, you told me it was just one man." And Joyce says that it's not something that she is happy about. But I'm like, do you have a death wish? Do you want to get some incurable STD? She's got to be careful with herself. Careful. Treat herself carefully if she's going to be out in these streets. Now, she says at the end of the day, something came good out of it. She got her child. But she's saying she got her kid. Yeah, she's lucky, but she's playing a game of roulette, Russian roulette. And she goes on to add that when she met Red, he had a short bid. This is why she's telling you guys why she cheated. He had a short sentence, but he got into a lot of fights, so he had to do his full sentence in prison. And she goes on to say she was never asked about how she felt about it. So, she got a little, horny and cheated. But she didn't want to wait a long time for her man. So Red does know about the three men. And that's one of the reasons that she does so much for him, to prove that her love is strong. But in reality, Red has to prove to her and Sway that he's good enough to be in their lives because no one is forcing him to stay with this single mom and live off of her limited resources. My goodness. And her sister feels as if this that Joy is doing all of this because she cheated. And she feels Red might be using her in a way to get back at her. And I believe that too, my loves. But this is plain reckless behavior. You're going out there just wide open, not protecting yourself at all. Like you want to be out in them streets, do it smart. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, let's just do our little recount of the winners and losers of this episode. Let's start off with Melissa and Louie. Who is winning? Interesting. This is a hard one because they are. I would say. I don't. You know what? I don't know who. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give it to both of them. They both seem on par. Louis doesn't seem to be using Melissa at this point. I'm gonna give points to the con and the non-con in this rare instance. Sheree and Anthony. Here's another situation. He's talking about, he wants to go with the flow, and she's all about schedules and stuff because she wants to make sure he's out in this world being productive. But I would give that point to Anthony because she's kind of like backing off a little bit. So 2-1 cons. Now Chelsea and Mikey. This is interesting too because it seems like both of these people in this couplehood seems to be for each other. I will say both are winning. Well, Mikey was feeling so sad because he's had to really feel some guilt about his mom. So I'm gonna give that point to Chelsea. So we're 2-2 cons and non-cons. Andy and Britt, obviously Britt is winning, so she gets a point for the con. So it's 3-2 cons. And then we have Joinomi and Red. I'm just gonna say it 4-2 cons to non-cons because Joinomi is definitely being used. I don't need to see Red to know that. Okay, my loves. What do you guys think? Subscribe if you have not subscribed. Hit that notification bell, my loves, because you're not going to get this commentary anywhere else. Share and care if you dare, and drop a line below so we can continue this conversation. And I'll see you all out on the flip side.